Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi cut short his trip to Saudi Arabia in view of the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. At least 16 people are killed in this attack. US President Donald Trump says the United States stands strongly with India against terrorism. Calls Pahalgam attack a deeply disturbing news out of Kashmir. The Russian president extends condolences after the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir and says this brutal crime has no justification whatsoever. In view of the terrorist attack in Kashmir's Pahalgam on Tuesday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi skipped the official dinner hosted by Saudi Arabia and has decided to cut short his visit to the kingdom. He was originally scheduled to return on Wednesday night, and he will now arrive in India early on Wednesday morning. At least 16 people were killed in the terrorist attack at a popular tourist destination in Pahalgam in South Kashmir on Tuesday. According to government sources, the tourists from several parts of India are among victims. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is currently on an official visit to Saudi Arabia, has decided, as we said earlier, to cut short his visit and return to India. He reviewed the situation earlier in the day and had spoken to the Union Home Minister Amit Shah and is getting constant updates about the situation and directing the Home Minister Amit Shah to ensure all necessary measures are taken in response to the incident. Strongly condemning the attack, the Prime Minister said that those responsible will be brought to justice. The Prime Minister wrote on the social media platform X, and I quote, "I strongly condemn the terror attack in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir. Condolences to those who have lost their loved ones. I pray that the injured recover at the earliest. All possible assistance is being provided to those affected. Those behind this heinous act will be brought to justice. They will not be spared. Their evil agenda will never succeed. Our resolve to fight terrorism is unshakable and it will get even stronger," unquote. Meanwhile, the Union Home Minister Amit Shah rushed to Srinagar and held an urgent security review meeting with all agencies. The meeting was to assess the current security situation and deploy immediate counter-terrorism measures to secure the region. Security forces launched a search operation following reports of gunfire. The incident comes amid a surge in tourist arrivals in Kashmir ahead of the annual Amarnath Yatra, which begins on July 3. On the terror attack in Pahalgam, President Draupadi Murmu wrote on X, and I quote, "The terrorist attack on tourists in Pahalgam of Jammu and Kashmir is shocking and painful. It is a dastardly and inhuman act which must be condemned unequivocally. Attacking innocent citizens, in this case tourists, is utterly appalling and unpardonable. My heartfelt condolences to the families who have lost their dear ones and my prayers for the quick recovery of the injured." The US President Donald Trump said that the United States stands strong with India against terrorism. Trump wrote on the Truth Social platform, and I quote him now, "Deeply disturbing news out of Kashmir. The United States stands strong with India against terrorism. We pray for the souls of those lost and for the recovery of the injured. Prime Minister Modi and the incredible people of India have our full support and deepest sympathies. Our hearts are with you all." Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin also expressed condolences over the Pahalgam terror attack. In a letter to President Murmu and the Prime Minister, he wrote, and I quote, "Please accept the deepest condolences over the tragic consequences of the terrorist attack near the town of Pahalgam that claimed the lives of civilians, citizens of various countries. There can be no justification for this brutal crime. We expect that its sponsors and perpetrators will be duly punished I would like to reiterate the readiness for further strengthening of cooperation with the Indian partners in the fight against all forms and manifestations of terrorism. Please convey words of sincere sympathy and support to the near and dear ones of the deceased, as well as wishes for a speedy recovery of all injured. The US Vice President J.D. Vance and the Second Lady Usha Vance, who are on a 4-day visit to India, extended condolences to the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack on Tuesday. In a post on X, the US Vice President wrote, and I quote, "Usha and I extend our condolences to the victims of the devastating terrorist attack in Pahalgam, India. Over the past few days, we have been overcome with the beauty of this country and its people. Our thoughts and prayers are with them as they mourn this horrific attack." The US State Department has condemned Tuesday's terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam district. In a post on X, it said, and I quote, "The United States strongly condemns the terrorist attack in Kashmir. Nothing can justify such a heinous act, killing tourists and civilians. Our thoughts are with those who have lost their loved ones. We continue to monitor the situation and call for the perpetrators to be held accountable," unquote. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has expressed her condolences over the Pahalgam attack. In a message shared on the social media platform X, the Italian Prime Minister conveyed her deep sorrow over the recent attack. In Pahalgam, she expressed solidarity with the families of the victims, the injured, and the Indian government, extending Italy's support to the people of India during this difficult time. The Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has also extended condolences to the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack on Tuesday. He said, "Deeply saddened by the heinous terror attack on tourists in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, our thoughts are with the victims and their families. Israel stands united with India in the fight against terror." The Russian ambassador to India, Denis Alipov, expressed his condolences to the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack on Tuesday. In a post on X, the Russian ambassador wrote, and I quote, "Deepest condolences to the people and the government of India over the heinous terror attack against tourists in Pahalgam, Russia. Resolutely stands with India." On the terror attack, the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh took to X and he wrote, "Deeply anguished by the news of the terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, this dastardly attack on civilians, innocent civilians, is an act of cowardice and highly reprehensible. My thoughts and prayers are with the innocent victims and their families." Well, during the meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Jeddah, the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and offered any help to India in this regard. India's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Suhail Ejaz Khan, has said so.
The meeting began with the reference to the unfortunate terror attack that has happened in India. Both the leaders expressed their condemnation for the terror attack. His Royal Highness Crown Prince conveyed his condolences and sympathies and offered any help in this regard to us.
The two leaders also agreed to expand the scope of the existing Strategic Partnership Council, and they also welcomed the decision on establishing, in fact, 2 oil refineries as joint ventures in India.
The Prime Minister's bilateral meeting was very fruitful, substantial, and forward-looking. Both the leaders discussed the full spectrum of bilateral relations, including energy partnership, defense, trade, investments, technology, culture, and people-to-people ties. Prime Minister and His Royal Highness also discussed the progress in the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor, and both the leaders agreed that it is a vision which is beneficial to everyone in the region, and they agreed to expedite the work on the island.
Still to come here on DD India Live. The US to impose tariffs of up to 3,521% on solar panel imports from Southeast Asia. Iran's foreign minister to visit China ahead of a third round of nuclear talks between Tehran and Washington.
New era of creativity. Waves World Audio Visual and Entertainment Summit as Mumbai hosts the global stage for creativity and innovation. Connecting creators through Creatosphere, where emerging voices rise. Wave Accelerator, where ideas meet global investors. Waves Bazaar, a global marketplace for content. Connecting countries through global media dialogue and industry roundtable. Bharat Pavilion, capturing India's rich history of storytelling.
वेव्स के रूप में भारत एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म बनाने जा रहा है जिसमें दुनिया के एंटरटेनमेंट लैंडस्केप पर उसको बदलने की क्षमता होगी.
From culturals to cinema, gaming to animation, fueling the next wave of entertainment. Connecting creators, connecting countries. Waves 2020.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. In a dramatic escalation of its trade policy, the United States has announced plans to impose massive tariffs, some as high as 3,521% on solar panels imported from Southeast Asia. The move, aimed at countering alleged Chinese subsidies, comes as President Donald Trump nears the 100-day mark of his second term.
The US Commerce Department on Monday unveiled plans to slap tariffs of up to 3,521% on solar panels from Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam. The move targets alleged transnational subsidies and dumping, primarily linked to Chinese manufacturers rerouting operations through Southeast Asia. Among the firms named are Chinese solar giants Jinko Solar and Trina Solar. These duties, if finalized, would come on top of a sweeping 10% blanket tariff imposed by President Trump earlier this month. The final decision rests with the International Trade Commission, which is expected to vote on the tariffs in June following year-long anti-dumping and countervailing duty investigations filed by US and international solar companies.
President Trump's priorities are clear. We will pursue a foreign policy that makes America safer, stronger, and more prosperous, just as we would expect you to pursue policies advancing your citizens' own interest and your national interests.
In response, the Chinese government has reportedly urged the Japanese Prime Minister to coordinate a joint stance against Trump's expanding tariff regime. The White House has aggressively revived trade war using tariffs as leverage. The latest measures are part of broader efforts to shrink the US trade deficit and pressure foreign competitors. The solar sector alone saw $11.9 billion in imports from the targeted countries in 2023. Meanwhile, Trump's tariffs continue to trigger concerns worldwide, with financial markets across various global pockets witnessing heavy selling. Market anxiety spiked on Tuesday, sending gold prices to an all-time high of $3,500 an ounce before settling slightly lower, driven by Trump's tariff threats and a fresh verbal attack on the Federal Reserve. As Trump pushes with bold protectionist measures, the ripple effects are being felt far beyond Washington. From clean energy to pharmaceuticals, and from Asia to Europe, the economic landscape is being rapidly reshaped. Bureau Report, DD India.
The ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict shows no signs of slowing down, despite intensifying diplomatic efforts for it to do so. Well, Russia has expressed its willingness to consider Ukrainian President Zelensky's proposal to halt attacks on civilian infrastructure. Meanwhile, representatives from Ukraine, the UK, France and the US are set to meet in London on Wednesday to discuss a ceasefire following last week's talks in Paris.
As Russia and Ukraine continue to bomb each other's territories, efforts to find a diplomatic solution are intensifying as both sides face mounting pressure to show progress towards ending the conflict. Russia has stated it is ready to consider a proposal by Ukrainian President Zelensky to halt attacks on each other's civilian infrastructure. However, Kremlin said there is no concrete plans at the moment for talks between Russia and Ukraine.
With desire and openness of Ukrainian side, certain steps should be taken to remove legal obstacles in the way of such contacts. President Putin repeatedly talked about his readiness to settle the conflict in the way of negotiations. There are no concrete plans. There is President Putin's confirmation to discuss this matter, taking into account experience of the Easter ceasefire.
Representatives from Ukraine, the UK, France, and the US will meet in London on Wednesday to continue talks on ceasefire negotiations in the ongoing conflict. This follows last week's meeting in Paris, where US Secretary of State Marco Rubio outlined Washington's plan to end the war.
Today was almost entirely dedicated to working with partner in various formats. We are preparing meeting for Wednesday with partner from Europe, the UK, France, Germany, and from the United States. These meetings can bring us closer to a ceasefire and a real lasting peace. Ukraine maintains its proposal not to strike at least civilian infrastructure, and we are expecting a clear response from Moscow.
Both Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of violating the energy agreement and Easter truce, continuing strikes without cease. Meanwhile, Russia has advanced in the border region, recapturing new areas. On Tuesday, Ukraine said Russia launched 2 guided aerial bombs on Zaporizhia, killing a woman and damaging residential buildings and infrastructure. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, days after rejecting Israel's ceasefire proposal, a Hamas delegation heads to Cairo to discuss new ideas for Gaza truce. Israel demands Hamas be disarmed, which the group rejects. Meanwhile, pressure mounts for the release of the remaining Israeli hostages in Hamas's captivity.
Diplomacy is gaining ground in the Israel-Hamas conflict as a Hamas delegation left for Egypt's Cairo for talks to secure a ceasefire in Gaza. The renewed push comes after Hamas last week rejected Israel's proposal for a 45-day ceasefire in exchange for the release of 10 hostages held in the enclave. Nearly 59 people who were taken hostage by Hamas during the October 7th attack are still believed to be in Gaza. The latest round of discussions is also happening a day after newly appointed US ambassador to Israel urged Hamas to accept a deal that would secure the release of hostages in exchange for the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Pressure is also mounting on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Thousands of protesters took to the streets in Tel Aviv calling on the Israeli government to strike an agreement with Hamas.
My son was kidnapped from Nahal Oz. He was defending this country, and this country is obligated to defend him, to bring him back. He is badly injured from 7 October.
Meanwhile, an Israeli drone strike in Lebanon killed Hussein Atawi, a top commander from a Hamas-aligned militant group. The Israeli army said that Atawi was involved in planning and advancing terrorist activities from Lebanon into Israeli territory, targeting IDF soldiers on the northern border. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, this week, all eyes of the auto world are on Shanghai, where the world's largest auto trade show allows for a glimpse into the future. Among the exhibitors is Germany's Volkswagen, and Lars Holter of Deutsche Welle joins me from Berlin. Well, Lars, what makes Volkswagen's exhibit in Shanghai so special this year?
Thanks for having me. Well, in a way, it's of course the new models they're showing, but all car makers do that, don't they? Now, underlying the Volkswagen presentation, however, is one particular change from previous years. All you see in Shanghai has nothing at all to do with Wolfsburg. Now, Wolfsburg in the German state of Lower Saxony is the worldwide headquarters of the company. It's a factory town. As a matter of fact, the city was founded in the 30s as the home of the company, and to this day, Germany's largest car maker is pretty much the only game in town. Every Volkswagen model from the old Beetle on was conceived here, and that includes all those models specifically made for foreign markets. Even though these cars are usually quite different from those sold at the home market, they all started here, but not anymore. What Volkswagen is exhibiting in Hall 5.1 of the Shanghai Auto Show is built on an entirely new platform. It's called a CSP, or China Scalable Platform. It was entirely thought up and developed in China. China is where the cars are assembled and where the software is sourced. So what they're showing there is essentially cars made by a German company, but they're not German cars.
Well, Lars, why is Volkswagen making such a radical change?
There are many reasons for this. First of all, China has long been Volkswagen's largest international market. Also, this particular market has slowed down, and dangerously so. German-made cars used to be big in China, but Volkswagen and other brands have long been passed now by BYD and some other Chinese firms. And one reason for this is that the Chinese customers are looking at cars with a different set of eyes. They have a different philosophy about cars, but software and connectivity, which are more important than they are in Europe or the US or other Western markets in general. Even social media plays into this. We've all seen these crazy car entertainment systems where karaoke is built into the cars. That's hard to get from a Western standpoint, but it's a fact of life in China. Also, and maybe even more important, lead times are so much shorter in China. Developing a new platform for a new series of cars takes 30 months, and it's 50 months in Germany, according to Volkswagen, and that's barring any delays that can way extend that time frame. Just look at the latest platform developed here, the Scalable Systems Platform, or SSP, that was supposed to come out in 2026, and it's not expected anymore until 2029.
And Lars, will Volkswagen take this one step further and bring, entirely Chinese-made cars to German and European markets?
Now, that's unlikely. Some details might find their way onto other markets, of course, including the new range extenders. That's a mini combustion engine that can charge a battery while driving and, well, extend the range of the car. But as for the Chinese-made models in general, there are two problems that might make it very hard to get them into German markets. First of all, there's the whole issue of trade, tariffs, and subsidies. Just this month, Germany and Chinese automakers have agreed on minimum prices for Chinese cars sold here. That's a step not quite as harsh as high import tariffs, but it was necessary for producers here, as the Chinese government pays subsidies, of course, to their firms, allowing them to undercut prices in foreign markets. And then there's the trust factor. Chinese software is not really something most German drivers would want in their cars. There's the suspicion of government spying, of data breaches. So all in all, it looks like all the models sold here in Germany and in Europe will still actually come from Wolfsburg for a long time to come.
Well, Lars Holter, thanks very much for joining us. Now, in a telephonic conversation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the US President Donald Trump has expressed his deepest condolences at the loss of innocent lives in the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. In a post on X, the official spokesperson of India's Ministry of External Affairs, Randir Jaiswal, wrote, and I quote, President Donald Trump called Prime Minister Narendra Modi and conveyed his deepest condolences at the loss of innocent lives in the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir. President Trump strongly condemned the terror attack and expressed full support to India to bring to justice the perpetrators of this heinous attack. India and the United States stand together in the fight against terror, unquote. Iran will discuss the US-Iran talks with China during the foreign minister's visit to Beijing. The spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Tuesday relations between the two countries can play a constructive role in any development, said Ismail Bagheli. Now, he also said that fundamental demand in any negotiation is the lifting of illegal and oppressive sanctions. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi will visit China on Tuesday ahead of the third round of nuclear talks between Tehran and Washington, scheduled for Saturday in Oman.
Our fundamental demand in any negotiation is the lifting of illegal and oppressive sanctions. Lifting of sanctions in a way that has tangible and fully effective results.
That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day, and you can also get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS. Scan the QR code and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. Thank you for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.